I overheard my family's plan to humiliate me at Christmas. That night, Mom called furious. "Where are you?" she snapped. Her voice was sharp, cold, like I'd committed a crime. I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I didn't rush to explain myself. Instead, I said calmly, "Did you enjoy my gift?" There was silence, the heavy kind, where the truth is finally sinking in and the guilt hits harder than any punch. Then she breathed out one word, low and venom-filled. "Melissa, what did you do?" Well, if she wanted an answer, she should have treated me like a daughter, not a joke. But I guess I should back up, because this story didn't start on Christmas Eve. It started weeks earlier, with one stupid comment that opened my eyes to something I'd been too blind to see. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. My name is Melissa Carter. I'm 27, work full-time, live alone, pay my own bills, and genuinely thought my family cared about me, even if they weren't perfect. Every year, Christmas was a big thing in my house. Matching pajamas, potluck dinner, the same board games, the same traditions. And honestly, even though I wasn't always treated like the favorite, I loved it because I thought it meant we were close. That illusion broke the day I walked in my parents' house early, way earlier than anyone expected. Mom, Dad, my older brother Ryan, his wife, and my younger sister Chloe were sitting around the dining table. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine, warm and festive. But what they were saying, it felt like somebody shoved ice water straight into my veins. Ryan laughed first. "So, Christmas speech, right?"
We're still doing that.
Chloe clapped her hands.
Yes.
"I cannot wait. Melissa is going to die of embarrassment." Mom didn't even sound hesitant. She just casually stirred her hot chocolate and said, "We'll do it after dinner. I'll go first." And then she read something from her phone. I didn't catch every word, but phrases like, "Still single. No life goals. Wasted potential. Mrs. Still living alone," rang clear. They were planning a roast. Not a fun, normal, playful roast.
No.
A humiliation session. A rehearsed, scripted, public takedown in front of extended family, neighbors, family friends, and whoever else was invited this year. My stomach dropped. My heart raced. My ears burned. Then Chloe chimed in, mocking my voice. Maybe after this she'll finally wake up and stop being such a disappointment. Everyone laughed. Everyone. Even my dad. That was the part that hit hardest. I stood there frozen in the hallway, invisible, listening to my own family tear me apart like entertainment. And the worst part? They never would have stopped. If I'd walked in, they would have just smiled, hugged me, and pretended nothing was wrong. I left quietly before anyone realized I'd been there. I got in my car, sat for a long minute, and let the reality sink in.
They didn't respect me.
They didn't support me. They didn't even like me. I was just the punchline, something to laugh at, something to feel superior to. And that's when something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. If they wanted a show, then I'd give them one they'd never forget. Over the next 2 weeks, I acted normal in the family group chat. I even pretended to be excited about the dinner. I smiled. I sent Christmas memes. I asked what food I should bring. And meanwhile, I planned. Not petty revenge. Not childish revenge. No, a clean, quiet, permanent message. I refuse to be your punching bag ever again. So when Christmas Eve finally came, everyone waited for me. They expected me to walk in cheerful, naive, ready to be destroyed for their entertainment. But instead, exactly at 6 p.m., the time I was supposed to arrive, every person in that room received a notification. A message. From me. Along with it, a gift box delivered to the house, scheduled perfectly. Mom opened it. Inside was a neatly printed script. The script I overheard them write about me. With a note on top. "Since you were so excited to read this in front of everyone, I thought you deserved the same spotlight." Also inside the box, printed copies for every guest at the dinner. And a final sentence printed in bold. "Merry Christmas. I won't be attending ever again." Mom called immediately. And that was the moment she hissed, "Where are you?" And I finally responded calmly, "Did you enjoy my gift?" When I asked my mom, "Did you enjoy my gift?" she didn't answer right away. I could practically hear the room behind her. Chairs scraping, whispers, someone gasping. They weren't used to me standing up for myself. They were used to quiet Melissa. The Melissa who swallowed comments like poison and still smiled. Not this time. Finally, Mom spoke, her tone sharper now. "This isn't funny. People are staring. Your aunt is crying. Your uncle wants to leave. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" A short laugh escaped me, not because it was funny, but because of the sheer irony. She was mad because she was embarrassed. She was mad because their plan backfired. She was mad because, for once, the humiliation wasn't on me. So I asked calmly, "Why is it humiliating, Mom? Didn't all of you write it?" Her silence answered more loudly than her words ever could. I hung up without another word. And in that moment, that small, quiet action, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Power.
Not the loud kind, not the angry kind, but the kind that comes from finally knowing your worth. For the next hour, my phone blew up with messages.
Ryan, wow.
Really mature. Chloe, what is wrong with you? Mom, you ruined Christmas. Dad, call me. And the group chat? Oh, that was chaos. Someone sent, "Everyone just wants to know why she isn't here." I didn't reply. I didn't owe them an explanation. Instead, I poured myself a cup of hot cocoa, turned on a movie, and sat with the quiet. But the quiet didn't last long, because anger eventually transforms into realization. Realization into reflection. And reflection into truth. So I asked myself, how long had I been treated like this? When did it start? Why didn't I see it sooner? The memories answered for me. I was the middle child, the in-between, the overlooked one. Ryan, the oldest, was the golden child. Straight A's, scholarship athlete, married young, perfect family Christmas card photo. My parents bragged about him like he cured cancer. Then there was Chloe, the baby, the princess, the one who could do no wrong. She could crash a car, fail school, scream at employees, and Mom would smile and call it passion. And then there was me. Quiet, independent, hardworking, never asking for anything. When I got promoted, no one cared. When I bought my first car myself, Dad joked, finally doing something right. When I moved out and paid rent without help, Mom said, most girls your age already have a fiancé. Every achievement I made was dismissed. Every mistake? Exaggerated. They treated my life like a scoreboard, and I was always losing. At first, I thought it was just joking, just teasing, just family being family. But the truth is, if something hurts every time, it's not a joke. And hearing them plan that Christmas roast, with no hesitation, no guilt, revealed something I'd never noticed before. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me. So, while they sat in a crowded house waiting for their entertainment target to arrive, I sat alone and finally stopped pretending. I wasn't sad. I wasn't broken. I was done. Done begging for respect. Done shrinking myself. Done believing I had to earn a place at a table that was never built for me. I grabbed my journal, something I hadn't written in for years, and wrote 3 sentences that would shape everything that happened next. I am not the joke. I am not the problem. I am not staying silent anymore. When I looked at the clock, it was nearly 9 p.m. That meant 3 hours of awkward tension at my parents' house. 3 hours of guests whispering things like, why would they write that about her? That was cruel. I wouldn't forgive my family if they did that. 3 hours of my family facing the mirror they had avoided for years. And, believe me, one thing about people who bully others? They can dish it out, but they cannot handle accountability. At 9:12 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, a single message. From my dad. Come home. We need to talk. Not, please. Not, we're sorry. Just a command like I was still a child they controlled. I put my phone face down and exhaled slowly.
No.
I wasn't coming home.
Not like that.
Not to a family who only wanted to talk because the consequences finally caught up with them. This time, they would sit with their discomfort. I changed into pajamas, dimmed the lights, curled into a blanket, and whispered to myself. This Christmas was the first gift I ever gave myself. The next morning, Christmas Day, I woke up expecting to feel guilty. For most of my life, guilt was automatic, like breathing. If someone was upset, I apologized. If someone was disappointed, I fixed it. If someone blamed me, I believed them. But that morning, for the first time, guilt wasn't there. Instead, there was something new.
Peace.
I made breakfast for myself, played Christmas music quietly, and watched the snow fall outside my window. It felt strange, almost unreal, like I was living someone else's life. Someone confident. Someone who didn't let people walk over them. Around 10 a.m., the phone rang again. This time, I answered. Melissa. It was my dad, his tone serious, controlled, the kind of voice he used when he wanted obedience. I didn't respond. I just let silence sit, the kind that makes the other person realize they're not in charge anymore. Dad continued. Last night, things got out of hand. I almost laughed. Out of hand? I repeated. You mean when everyone saw what you planned to read about me? The speech you all wrote? The jokes about my life? That part. He sighed, long, frustrated, like he was the victim. It wasn't supposed to be cruel, he said. It was supposed to motivate you. You're almost 30, and you're not where you should be. There it was. The illusion cracked completely. He didn't regret hurting me. He regretted being exposed. I spoke clearly, evenly. You don't get to disguise humiliation as motivation. Dad stopped talking. I continued. If you wanted to motivate me, you could have encouraged me.
Supported me.
Celebrated something.
Anything.
There was a pause, long enough to confirm he had no defense. Then he said the sentence that told me everything I needed to know. You made us look bad. Not we hurt you. Not we were wrong.
Not we're sorry. Just.
You embarrassed us. And finally, I said what I should have said years ago. I didn't make you look bad.
You did that yourselves.
I just stopped covering it. Before he could reply, I hung up. And just like that, the power shifted again, permanently. By afternoon, the messages changed tone. They were no longer angry. They were desperate. Chloe, can we talk? Please? Ryan, look, maybe we went too far. Mom, we need to fix this. Before New Year's dinner. The phrase that stuck with me was before New Year's dinner.
Not.
We miss you. We're worried.
We're sorry.
Just.
Before the next event.
Like I was a decoration that needed repair before the next holiday. That evening, while I ate leftovers and watched a movie, I thought about something I'd ignored for years. My family liked me best when I was quiet, grateful, and easy to overlook. The moment I stopped playing that role, suddenly I was the problem. Not because I did something wrong, but because I finally protected myself. 3 days passed before anyone contacted me again. Then, out of nowhere, I received a message from an unknown number. A long one. It was my aunt, the only family member who ever treated me kindly, even when no one else did. Her message said, Sweetheart, I saw everything. It wasn't okay. None of it. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I stared at the screen, blinking back tears. Because finally, someone saw it for what it was. She continued, Your mom is embarrassed, not remorseful. Your siblings are confused because they expected you to just take it. This situation isn't your fault. Don't let them convince you it is. I didn't know how much I needed those words until they hit me. For so long, I thought maybe I was dramatic. Maybe I was sensitive. Maybe I was the problem. But the truth was clearer than ever. The problem wasn't that I changed. The problem was that I stopped tolerating disrespect. The next day, another message came, this time from Chloe, my younger sister. It was long. Not thoughtful. Not apologetic. Just defensive. She wrote, You ruined Christmas. People left early. Mom cried. You embarrassed us in front of everyone. Why didn't you just confront us privately? I answered with one single sentence. Why didn't you? She didn't reply again. Meanwhile, my life started to feel lighter. I went to work. I focused on myself. I took long walks. I slept better. It was like removing my family's negativity unplugged a weight I didn't know I was carrying. But peace never comes without resistance. Because just when I thought things were settling, they showed up, uninvited, at my door. I wasn't expecting a knock. It was late, almost 8 p.m., and the winter wind outside howled like something alive. I assumed it was a delivery driver or a neighbor. But when I opened the door, I froze. Standing there, bundled in coats and tense expressions, were my mom, Dad, Ryan, and Chloe. For a moment, none of us spoke. Mom finally said, "Can we come in?" In the past, I would have stepped aside automatically, even if I wasn't ready, because being agreeable was easier than conflict. But this version of me, the one who finally saw the truth, I wasn't letting them walk into my space just because they decided the timing. So I asked calmly, "Why?" My mom blinked, surprised, like no one had ever questioned her before. "We need to talk," she said. I folded my arms. Talking doesn't require entering my home. Dad exhaled sharply, impatient, annoyed. "This is ridiculous, Melissa. Let us inside." The old me would have flinched at his tone. The new me simply responded,
No.
Their shock was almost comical. Chloe spoke next, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "This is so dramatic. You're acting like we abused you." I raised an eyebrow.
Oh.
So planning a public humiliation event for me was, what? Loving? Supportive? Holiday entertainment. Ryan stepped forward, lowering his voice like he was being reasonable. "We didn't think you'd take it seriously. We were just trying to get you to make some life changes. You've been stuck." There it was again, the implication that my life was somehow failing because it didn't match their expectations. I answered steadily.
No.
"You weren't trying to help me. You were trying to shame me into being someone you approve of." My mom's eyes finally softened, slightly, but not enough to be remorse. Just enough to say she regretted being caught. She sighed. "We just want things to go back to normal." That sentence hit me harder than any insult they'd ever thrown. Back to normal. Normal meant me shrinking myself, me laughing at insults, me accepting disrespect, me being the quiet punching bag. I shook my head slowly.
No.
"I'm never going back to that." Mom frowned. "So what? You're cutting us off." I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked something that had been building in my mind since the moment I overheard that roast script. "If what you did was so harmless, then why are you embarrassed now?" Silence. Not one of them had an answer, because deep down they knew the truth. They weren't upset that they hurt me. They were upset that everyone else saw it, that their image cracked, that the mask slipped. Dad spoke again, softer this time, almost measured. "So, what do you want from us?" It was the first real question he'd asked me in years, maybe ever. And for a moment I didn't speak. I just looked at them, really looked. My family. People I had spent years trying to impress. People whose approval I chased like oxygen. People I would have defended, protected, forgiven without hesitation. People who never gave me the same in return. I finally said, "I don't want anything from you." Mom's face tightened. "So that's it." I nodded. "That's it." Chloe scoffed, shaking her head. "You're choosing strangers over your own family."
No. I correcte Janli.
"I'm choosing myself." Another silence followed, heavier than the winter air. Ryan muttered under his breath, "Unbelievable." Dad straightened his coat.
Fine.
"If that's how you want it." Mom looked at me one more time, searching for the old version of me, the one who would break, apologize, chase after them. But she didn't find her, because that girl was gone, replaced by a woman who finally understood her worth. Before they turned to leave, I added one last thing, not out of bitterness, but closure. "You taught me something important. You showed me the kind of people I don't want in my life. And I'm grateful I finally learned that."
No yelling. No slamming doors.
Just truth. They walked away slowly, defeated, confused, angry, embarrassed. As the door closed behind them, I locked it, not because I feared them, but because I was finally protecting myself. When the house fell silent again, I sat down on the couch, hands shaking, heart racing. Not from fear, but from relief. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. For the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider in my own family. For the first time, truly, I felt whole. And that peace, that freedom, that self-respect, that was the real revenge. After they left, I sat there for a long while, quiet, still, almost frozen in the moment. Not because I regretted anything, but because I finally realized how much space their approval used to take up in my mind. And now, there was finally room for me. That night, I slept better than I had in years.
No anxiety. No replying conversations.
No wondering if I could have said something differently. Just rest, deep, peaceful, earned. Over the next few days, something unexpected happened. Life continued. Bills still came. Work emails still existed. Coffee still tasted the same. But I was different. It was like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. I started doing little things for myself, things I always wanted but never prioritized. I redecorated my apartment. Bought myself a new coat. Started therapy, not because I was broken but because I finally wanted to heal intentionally. My therapist didn't have to dig long to understand the situation. She listened, nodded thoughtfully, and said something that sat with me for days. Sometimes the hardest families to walk away from are the ones who hurt you quietly. Not physically, not violently, but in jokes disguised as love, in comparisons disguised as advice, in disrespect disguised as tradition. Hearing that made everything click. I hadn't lost a family. I'd walked away from a cycle. About 2 weeks later, I ran into my aunt again, the one who texted me. She asked if I'd be attending the New Year's dinner. I smiled gently and said, "No." She nodded, not judgmental, just understanding.
I figured, she said.
"Your mom is still upset. She keeps saying she doesn't know who you are anymore." I paused. Then I answered, "I think she's just never known who I actually was." My aunt touched my arm gently. "Well, I'm proud of you. And if you ever want a holiday where you're treated like someone who matters, you're welcome at my place." That offer meant more than she knew. Eventually, the group chat went quiet. No more guilt messages. No more accusations. No more pressure. Just silence, the kind that meant they finally understood. I wasn't playing the role anymore. A few days into January, I got one last text, this time from my dad.
Short.
Almost emotionless. "Whenever you're ready, we can talk." I stared at it a long time. Not because I was unsure, but because the old version of me would have rushed to fix things. But this version? She only responded when it aligned with her peace. So I wrote, "I'm open to a conversation. But not one where you defend what happened. Only one where you're willing to listen and take responsibility." He never replied. And strangely, I was okay with that. Because I realized something important. I don't need them to change for me to move forward. I only needed to change how I allowed myself to be treated. Months passed, and life kept unfolding quietly but beautifully. I made new friends. I built new routines. I celebrated small wins, without waiting for someone to validate them. And every once in a while, I thought about my family, not with anger or sadness, but clarity. Some people don't deserve front-row access to your life. Some people only love the version of you that serves them. Some people exist better at a distance. And that's okay. Because not every loss is a tragedy. Sometimes it's alignment. Sometimes it's liberation. Sometimes it's the first step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. This year, when Christmas approached again, something strange happened. I didn't dread it. I didn't fear being judged. I didn't wonder what they'd say. I didn't wait for acceptance. Instead, I invited people into my home, friends, co-workers, people who cared about me, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. We cooked.
We laughed.
We played games. We exchanged gifts. And when midnight came, Everyone raised a glass and said, "To chosen family." I smiled, not with pain, not with bitterness, but with peace. Because for the first time, Christmas belonged to me. My life belonged to me. My voice belonged to me. And I finally understood. Sometimes revenge isn't destruction. Sometimes revenge is building a life they no longer have access to. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life revenge stories. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the quiet ones have the loudest comeback.